All right, Ron, I am so excited to have some time with you today because I've got a story to share, and I just knew that I had to reach out to you to go, what went wrong and what should I have done before I even started vibe coding? Because it's been a 90 days learning lesson, and I've spent some time over the weekend on Reddit because I actually posted about kind of my experience, and boy, it opened a floodgate. I'm not the only person who is struggling with, just jumping in and vibe coding and getting to, seems like everyone gets to about 80-90%. And then there's this blocker, or getting started is really easy, but then you fall into these traps. So yeah, I'd love to kind of just talk with you and kind of get your expertise of like where should you start before you start vibe coding, because I've learned that there's definitely some best practices that I probably should have started with.
Yeah, so I think, right, in agile terminology, right, it's the why, it's your North Star, right? Get in, document that in whatever form or fashion. In my experience, doesn't really have to be a formal document. It just has to be something that you and the team, it really can be passionate about, or really document, right? Then it gets into, right, some of the formal things, like you can develop individual personas.
Yep.
Yeah, with like outline the persona, the problem, and what your expected outcome is, right? And then just have those documented, and probably understand the constraints that go into that triangle of persona, problem, outcome. And then ultimately, I think it comes down to developing a definition of ready, right? Before you do any prompting, right? Have that bulletized document. In your case, you have some AI vibe coders, so it's a virtual team. If you had an actual human team, then you would want some, document the definition of ready and have all those in place, and also with maybe a working agreement or two, outline all that. So before you even start coding, you have a direction, you have an understanding, and everyone has bought into it, right? It's not the leaders dictating to the development team. It's everybody's bought in, everybody has a passion for it, everybody understands the direction, and then you could go. So I think preparing that, it's easy to get into, I got this great idea and I just got to get it out of my head. It's really simple to do that. But I think you found out some of the constraints that come over time, especially, from a software integrating the back end to actual hardware. That's where it can get challenging. But I think it's ultimately starting with, your North Star, your being able to have that direction and move forward from there.
Yeah, no, it's great. And now that I'm going through this, I'm kind of trying to put together like a little bit of a best practice guide, in the sense of, because I have another idea for another application. And so what I've been and I'm spending quite a bit of time on Reddit, just reading through what other people's struggles are. And then it's great because you have people who are trying to take ideas and make them something, which is exciting. And then you have this other group of people who are the developers, who are like, what did you guys think? Like, this isn't like a whole dev team with 20 years of whatever, knowing how to actually bring something to market. So you need to actually, so the concept kind of putting together your A team, like working with someone like you, Ron, and putting that early goal of the North Star document together. But then also, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a product manager, and I'm kind of asking them like, well, what would you do? So like, even like thinking about the team you're going to need, which you're trying to vibe code, super lean, take the idea founder to market, right? But you do need to put together, I think, this like the A team concept of like, okay, we'll go and spend an hour with someone like Ron, go and spend an hour with someone who's a product manager or a senior dev, and go, okay, here's my idea, here's what I want to build, here's the process. And I think the thing that would have been really helpful for me, and love to hear your side on this, is it would have been really great to define what MVP, like what the stopping point of your MVP is. So because what's very fun in the when you're looking with these IDE dev platforms is they're always suggesting the next 5 things that it can build for you. And so you're like, oh, that sounds really cool. You can push a button and it just builds the whole welcome and welcome platform for your new customer and onboarding and whatever. So really having a clear, like, what is MVP? When do you stop?
Mm-hmm.
And then how are you going to actually build in like your testing platform? I think that would have been probably helpful for me as well.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of Agile and why I'm so drawn to it. It's the iterating in small chunks.
Yeah.
Right. And in my opinion, even before you get to an MVP, a minimum viable product, right?
Yep.
You can iterate in even smaller chunks to an MMP, minimum marketable product.
Okay.
And in my experience, that's an even smaller chunk of the pie, right? For instance, say you're building a new website or a new app, that has a GUI interface, right?
Yep.
You develop just the simple, maybe log on credentials, something that's something that can be released and has value, but very tiny functionality.
Yeah.
Get that out, right? Get feedback, right? Say, hey, this GUI is, we have all the bells and whistles prepared and in the pipeline, but right now we're just have this first step. Mr. or Miss User, give me some feedback.
No, that's awesome.
Right? What are you seeing? What are you experiencing?
Yeah.
And then that'll direct your next step, and break it up into weekly sprints, bi-weekly sprints, iterations, right? And just deliver that piece of value, and then again iterate off of that incrementally. And I think that's the beauty of the Agile approach, right? Because it gives the user the value up front, maybe not all the bells and whistles immediately, but it shows progress. It shows, hey, there's something here, and I'm going to have these features. I'm going to have these bells and whistles eventually.
Yeah, and that voice of the customer in your cycle is so important, especially if you're doing those smaller iterations. You can turn around quickly. You can have a great BAU kind of program, or LIFO, or whatever you want to call your way to address feedback quickly in your cycle. And it's good. Yeah. No, the good news is I did get my MMP out. So I was able to launch that like 3.5 weeks ago, and we've already been demoing and getting people signed up for the beta. So now I'm working on hopefully getting the beta, the official beta version 1 out here in the next probably 2 weeks. So that's super exciting. But
and I think it's important to set the expectations up front, right? To say this isn't going to be the full-blown application. This is beta. This is something that I and we need feedback from, and to make sure we're going in the right direction.
So in your experience when working in the Agile framework, what are some of the things that you could recommend on when you have your beta and you want to capture that feedback? What's the best way to kind of to look at the feedback, and how do you put it into a model where you can actually review it and decide what you use and what you don't use?
So I think the best way to do it is, again, back to that triangle approach, right? That persona, problem, outcome, and develop. It could be as simple as a spreadsheet, right? And develop a feature in one column, and then document what the feedback is from that feature, right? How it impacts the target audience, the persona that you're looking for, what problems they may be experiencing, right? And then does that meet the desired outcome? and then you just have that written down, documented somewhere, so then it could be referred back, and then you can develop user stories, from
Yeah.
that, and then go back and and then address those issues or that feedback. Said, yeah, Mr. Misuser, as a persona, this is what we heard, this is what you said, this is what we heard, and this is how we fixed it. Doesn't
Yeah.
meet your expectation. So it comes down to that triangle approach and making sure that that criteria is met.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's always good when you have a grouping of customers with the same feedback and you can fix it, and then you get to tell them, hey, we fixed your stuff, and what do you think? So that's really, do you have any recommendations? Because I know like right now, like there's a lot of people doing vibe coding and launching applications, and they don't really maybe have the infrastructure. Are there any simple, I mean, Excel works great and there's templates out there for tracking defects, but is there any like simple applications that you're aware of that would be maybe a good thing to first, if you want to move past looking at or using Excel and you want to get into an application? Is there anything that's
the tools I've used in the past is Lean Canvas. I don't have experience with others, but Lean Canvas, it's just a simple, again, framework with that kind of outlines the persona, problem, and outcome. But
okay?
those are the tools that I've used in the past.
Okay. Yeah, I've used Shortcut, which was actually has a very much of an agile workflow, which is really actually quite good. And then I've also done the beast of Confluence, Jira kind of stuff. And that's,
I was going to say Confluence and Jira. That's another tool that I've used in the past. Yeah, that has a really good interface and easy to control, easy to manage, easy to document.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ron, this has been super helpful. I think your insights on, again, starting from the North Star, take the time to put the documentation together, make sure that you're really understanding what you're building. And I think that getting your clear goals of MVP and how you're going to track things, and then just making sure that you're honest with yourself on what you can and can't do. And it's okay to raise your hand and ask for help and lean on people who are the experts in putting these things together, so you have your best foot forward.
Don't be afraid to be vulnerable, transparent, because you set those expectations, and from that comes trust.
Yeah.
Right? And that's all good, because it lets everyone know where you are and what to expect.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Ron. So where can people connect with you if they want to reach out to you and talk about how to put together maybe their idea or an MVP outline?
Yeah. So thanks for that. I'm on LinkedIn. There's a new platform called subs.com. I'm on there. People can certainly reach out to me, and I'll address any and all questions that come my way.
Great. All right. Thanks, Ron. I appreciate the time.
Hey, Lee, awesome. Thanks for this. I appreciate your time, and good luck with your new applications, and hopefully I can help further.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm going to, before I start the next application, I'm going to reach out to you for sure.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Ron.
Thanks. Yeah. So typically in my experience, right, we're working with the agile strategies, mindset and frameworks. It really comes down to, or it starts with why, right? The old adage, right? Why, and then once you understand your purpose and your North Star, then you can get into the other W questions, like what, who, the how to it, and then where is probably the least important, in my opinion, at this point. But the why, the reason that you're doing this, or you want to bring this to market, I think is a springboard for everything else.
Yeah, no, agreed. Okay. So starting off with a really good understanding of, in Levine's books, one of my favorites is fall in love with the problem, not the solution, which I think it's super easy. And I got the coding platforms make it so easy. I mean, literally you can put in a couple sentence prompt and you get built this amazing application that looks pretty, and come to find out nothing's connected on the back end. All the charts are hard coded. You can get something like a true MVP, but it isn't actually something that's going to be able to, I think, be taken to market, which is what a lot of people on Reddit are talking about. But I think your point is valid, is really stepping back and building out a project plan focused on what are the problems that you are trying to solve. Because at the end of the day, if no one is willing to pay you for the problem you're solving, then right, you don't have a business or an application that you can sell. So
I think you dropped into the pitfall, right? I think you started out well and you had the tools. I think you had the right direction, but probably your foundation wasn't there. And then that's when you got into some of the issues, right? Some of the problems.
Yeah, that was definitely the case. For me, I guess my experience, just because I've had 90 days ago, I wanted to jump in and try to build an application that I've had in my head for a couple of years. And I actually had a friend of mine who owns a consulting company, and he's written a book and he's very successful in providing this service. And I just said, I can put all that into an application. So I kind of had a framework, and I did start with just kind of a rough document outline so that I could have something to kind of lean on. But once I kind of put it into the product, it almost like supersized my excitement. And the agent is so great at telling you how awesome everything you're doing is. So then it was pretty easy for that first 30 days. I mean, and I got through the first 30 days, and then I started realizing, man, there's some problems here. Like some of the metrics and some of the workflows weren't lining up. And so that's when I stepped back and I started doing a lot more digging, like asking the agent, okay, tell me about the database. What are the column names? What's the structure? How are you connecting these workflows together? And come to find out that the agent had built, and it's hard to know when you put a prompt in, like what else it's doing. Because if you're not a developer, you're not thinking about that. But like, the agent just decided to change case on field naming, and also built out multiple databases or multiple column groups, table groups, when it could have had everything in one table. So it could have done more of a, master list with foreign keys. And so those are some of the things that I'm like, that really got me. I had to step back and completely rebuild my whole data model, because it had.
So that wasn't defined. That wasn't defined prior to anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So like those types of things, I think it's actually the foundational data structure and how you're going to be joining your different areas of your application. And depending on the complexity of your application, right? It could be a super simple mobile app that tracks whatever, I don't know, the weather. Or you have a pretty significant, I think I'm doing some pretty complex things, and I just assume. So I think going back to like when you're building out your model and you're building out your plan and you're building out your why, like what are some of the, I guess, best practice recommendation that you would suggest for building out that plan? Like what level of detail do you think you got to need to kind of go into just to give yourself a shot?